Why do we have this incredibly powerful, almost desperate need to belong? And more importantly, what's the hidden price we pay for that identity? Today, we're going to dive deep into the work of psychoanalyst Yael Rosemarine, who takes us on a pretty intense journey into the complex and sometimes dangerous bargain of belonging. So our story starts in a place that's supposed to be the most private, most secure space you can imagine, a psychoanalyst's office. But as we're about to see, something else is always in the room.
Get this. Every single time Rosemarine gets close to his analyst's office in Tel Aviv, something weird happens. His American phone just stops working, dies. But his Israeli phone works perfectly fine. This is the first clue that there's an invisible guest at every session.
Okay, so here's the twist. His analyst's office is in this beautiful, peaceful neighborhood. Tree-lined streets, gardens, idyllic. But literally right across the street is a massive government compound, the home of the Mossad and Shabak, Israel's top intelligence agencies, a center of state surveillance staring right at a space meant for total vulnerability.
This crazy proximity, the constant electronic interference, it leads Rosemarine and his analysts to create a running joke. They invent an imaginary third person in the room with them, someone from that compound, listening in on all their deepest, darkest secrets. And they even give her a name, Tal. They imagine she's an 18-year-old soldier, probably a little bored, just finishing her shift of listening to phone taps. She becomes this very real symbol of the state's constant, invisible presence in their most private conversations. Now, this idea of an outside force shaping our inner lives, it's not just some clever anecdote for Rosemarine. No, this cuts way deeper. It's rooted in a really personal and painful experience, one that showed him the true price of stepping out of line. This is the one question that has haunted him his entire life. It's what set him on his path as a psychoanalyst. What happens when your own conscience puts you on a collision course with the identity of the group you belong to?
So when he was a young man, Rosemarine decided he could not, in good conscience, serve in the army because of the occupation. To avoid going to prison, he tried to get a psychiatric exemption. And then, the shock. His own loving parents, horrified by his defiance, used their own connections to try and stop him. Suddenly, he was totally alone, fighting against both the state and his own family.
That personal trauma, that feeling of betrayal, is what led Rosemarine to develop a huge theory about what it really means to belong to any group, a nation, a religion, even your own family. He defines belonging as something more than just a warm, fuzzy feeling. He sees it as a transaction. Sure, it's about attachment and having a place, but it's also about ownership. The group gives you an identity, but in return, it owns a piece of you. So on one side, you have the pull of love. You get attachment, affiliation, a sense of care. But on the other side, you have the price. You have a sense of being owned, of owing debts to the group, debts that might demand the ultimate sacrifice. As Rosemarine puts it, we are all caught in this really delicate and often uneasy balance. The groups that make us who we are can hold us tight, but they can also push us away or demand a price that's just too high. He boils it down to two fundamental forces. Collective love is the gravity, the thing that pulls us all together. But collective violence, the pressure, the demands, the threat of punishment, that's what truly binds us and keeps everyone in line. For a long time, these were ideas Rosemarine could explore from a safe distance, a theoretical space. But then an event happened that shattered that threshold and turned this intellectual exercise into a terrifying, unavoidable reality. In early 2023, he was just contemplating these ideas. After October 7th, he says, that comfortable threshold became a fault line. The abstract questions about belonging suddenly became a desperate, real-time struggle not to fall into an abyss. In their first session after the attacks, he and his analyst found themselves debating this horrifying, completely absurd question. I mean, what a question to even be asking. But it perfectly captured the impossible moral trap they felt they were in. What were they really asking? They were asking, which kind of killing are we a part of? The detached technological violence of our state, or the intimate face-to-face violence of our enemies? War forces you to choose which killers you consent to be. The raw power of this collective identity was just laid bare in this single, shocking statement. A father whose own son was being held hostage in Gaza, went on television and declared that his son's life could be sacrificed for the group's cause.
A newspaper article immediately fired back, and it pinpointed the central conflict perfectly. Does an individual's life belong to their family, or does it belong to the collective? Who has the right to make that decision?
And this leads to the most chilling realization of all. At its most extreme, our loyalty to the collective, to the group, the nation, the cause, can become number one. It can actually supersede the most fundamental bond we have, our love for our own children. Now, even though this story is rooted in a very specific, very intense conflict, Rosemarine argues that it reveals a universal psychological truth that applies to every single one of us in all of our communities. This huge, often unconscious pressure from the group, that's what psychoanalysis calls the superego. It's the voice of society that lives inside your head. It's all the internalized rules, loyalties, and demands that literally shape who you are.
And ultimately, all of social life is just a constant negotiation. We trade some of our individual freedom for the safety and identity that the group gives us. But that bargain, that trade, has a dark side. It can become lethal.
And this leaves us with Rosemarine's final haunting thought. Our deepest human need, the need to belong, is what gives us our identity, our place in the world. But in the end, that very same need might be what asks us to sacrifice everything. So it makes you think, what are the unspoken bargains you've made to belong?